Picture this. You're standing in front of two ancient ruins, separated by miles or even continents, yet they mirror each other with eerie precision. The same arches, the same carvings, the same hidden chambers, as if one was copied straight from the other. But why? Why would civilizations thousands of years apart, with no known contact, build nearly identical structures? This isn't just a coincidence, it's a mystery that cracks open the door to one of archaeology's most tantalizing theories, the twin tombs theory. What if some of the world's most famous ruins aren't originals at all, but deliberate duplicates of lost masterpieces? And what if these copies were meant to preserve or conceal secrets too profound to let vanish into history? From the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of Mesoamerica, there are ruins that defy explanation, structures that seem to echo each other across time and space. Could they be part of a forgotten tradition, a way for ancient builders to safeguard knowledge from catastrophes or wars? Or is there something even more extraordinary at play, a hidden message, a warning, or a legacy meant only for those who dare to look closer? The twin tombs theory challenges everything we think we know about the past, suggesting that these duplicates aren't accidents but carefully crafted replicas, each holding fragments of a puzzle we're only beginning to understand. Today, we're embarking on a journey to unravel this enigma. We'll explore the evidence, the uncanny similarities between ruins that shouldn't share a single stone, the myths and legends that hint at lost originals, and the bold theories that connect them all. Along the way, we'll meet the researchers who have risked their reputations to chase this idea and examine the startling implications if they're right. Because if the twin tombs theory holds water, it means our history books are missing chapters filled with vanished cities, forgotten technologies, and perhaps even the blueprint of a civilization far more advanced than we ever imagined. So, are you ready to step into the shadows of the past and uncover what these twin ruins are trying to tell us? Let's begin. At its heart, the twin tombs theory proposes something extraordinary that scattered across the globe, hidden in plain sight, are ancient structures built not as original creations but as meticulous copies. This isn't about vague resemblances or shared architectural trends. We're talking about near-identical designs, down to the angles of corridors, the placement of chambers, even the alignment with celestial bodies, details so precise they defy coincidence. Unlike later civilizations borrowing styles or techniques, these twin sites suggest something far more intentional, a deliberate act of replication, as if the builders were working from the same blueprint across centuries or millennia. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, arguably the most studied structure on Earth. Most of us know its staggering precision, the way its sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, the mathematical sophistication encoded in its dimensions. But what if it wasn't the first of its kind? Some researchers point to the Pyramid of Jenfer, a lesser-known ruin just a few miles away, as a potential mirror. Though less intact, its base and internal layout share uncanny similarities, as if both pyramids were variations of a lost original, one built to last, the other perhaps a failed attempt. And this pattern repeats. In Mesoamerica, the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan echoes the proportions of El Tajin's niches, while across the ocean, Cambodian temple corridors seem to mirror Egyptian underground chambers. What makes the twin tombs theory so provocative isn't just the similarities, it's the implication of why. Typical replication in archaeology happens through cultural exchange or conquest, like Romans copying Greek statues. But these twins often appear in civilizations with no known contact, separated by oceans or eras. Even more puzzling, many of the duplicates are less refined, as if the knowledge to build them was fading. Could they be attempts to preserve something irreplaceable, a sacred geometry, a forgotten technology, or even a warning? Ancient texts hint at this. The Egyptian inventory stela claims the Great Pyramid was restored, not built, by Khufu. Mayan legends speak of first worlds and their ruins, rebuilt after catastrophes. This theory forces us to reconsider how ancient societies viewed their own past. Were they trying to outsmart time itself, creating backups of sacred sites before disaster struck? Or were they hiding something within these structures, knowing only those who recognized the pattern would uncover the truth? Either way, the precision of these twins suggests a level of coordination and purpose that rewrites our understanding of ancient engineering, and perhaps even their grasp of history itself. Because if they went to such lengths to duplicate these sites, what does that say about the originals they were trying to save or erase? Long before modern archaeology began piecing together the puzzle of twin ruins, ancient civilizations left us clues hidden in plain sight. Stories passed down through generations that whisper of duplicated structures and lost originals. Take Plato's account of Atlantis, for example. He didn't just describe a sinking city. He wrote of a metropolis so advanced, its layout and temples were replicated across the world by survivors fleeing its destruction. Could this be more than myth? The Egyptians, too, spoke of shadow temples, mirror images of sacred sites built in remote locations, designed to preserve knowledge should disaster strike. These weren't just backup plans, they were acts of devotion, ensuring the gods' favor would endure even if the original stones crumbled. This idea of duplication as preservation isn't unique to one culture. In medieval Europe, Christian cathedrals often rose atop pagan shrines, their foundations literally layered over older sacred spaces. The Notre Dame de Paris, for instance, sits atop a temple to Jupiter, its soaring Gothic arches echoing the same celestial alignments as the pagan structure beneath it. Was this mere practicality, reusing prime real estate, or something deeper? Across the globe, from the stepped pyramids of Mesopotamia to the overgrown temples of Cambodia, archaeologists find sites built in intentional layers, one civilization's sacred space becoming the next building blocks. The evidence isn't just in the stones, it's in the stories. Mayan texts describe previous worlds and the ruins left behind, which their ancestors rebuilt. Hindu epics speak of Vimana's celestial chariots used to transport sacred blueprints across continents. Even the Bible's tale of the Tower of Babel hints at a shared architectural knowledge scattered and lost. These narratives share a haunting thread. The idea that great cities and temples were destroyed, but their essence survived, meticulously recreated by those who remembered. So why would ancient societies go to such lengths? Power, for one. Rulers knew that controlling sacred spaces meant controlling history itself. By duplicating a revered site, they could claim its legacy, like Roman emperors repurposing Egyptian obelisks as trophies. But there's another, more poignant possibility: fear. From the volcanic ash of Santorini to the flooded ruins of Dwarka, our ancestors lived with the constant threat of catastrophe. Duplicating sacred sites may have been their insurance policy against oblivion, a way to whisper to the future, "We were here, this mattered." The question isn't just whether twin tombs exist, it's why they're so eerily alike. From the alignment of doorways to the choice of materials, these duplicates suggest a precision that goes beyond imitation. It's as if the builders weren't just copying a design but obeying an unbreakable rule, a sacred geometry they dared not alter. And that raises an even bigger mystery. if these sites are echoes, where and what was the original voice? The pyramids of Giza stand as monuments to human ingenuity, their perfect geometry and celestial alignment still baffling engineers today. But what if these iconic structures are just half the story? Beneath the sands of Egypt, or perhaps scattered across forgotten sites, lies their shadowy counterparts, mirror images built to fulfill a purpose far beyond tombs. The idea isn't as far-fetched as it seems. Recent ground-penetrating radar scans have revealed tantalizing voids beneath the plateau, including a hidden chamber beneath the Great Pyramid's descending corridor and an unexplained cavity near its northeastern edge. Mainstream archaeology interprets these as structural features or unfinished shafts, but alternative researchers propose something more deliberate, that these spaces are echoes of the pyramids above, carefully duplicated underground to serve as spiritual backups or repositories of sacred knowledge. The evidence goes beyond modern technology. Ancient texts like the Inventory Stela, long dismissed as myth, claim Khufu didn't build the Great Pyramid but restored it, hinting at a pre-existing structure. Even more compelling are the pyramid's astronomical ties. The three main pyramids align with Orion's belt, but so do lesser-known mounds nearby, some eroded, some buried, as if mirroring the constellation's fainter stars. Could these be the shadow pyramids, their purpose obscured by time? The Egyptians believed in duality. Every earthly thing had its celestial twin, every temple a hidden counterpart. The pyramid complex at Abu Rawash, often labeled as unfinished, shares the Great Pyramid's base angle but sits mysteriously gutted, its core removed. Was it stripped to build Giza, or was it always meant to be hollow, a symbolic twin holding nothing but echoes? Then there's the Serapeum of Saqqara, a labyrinth of underground tunnels housing massive granite boxes too precise for simple burial. Their placement mirrors the pyramid's alignment, yet their function remains debated. Were they storage for sacred texts, as some suggest, or ritual duplicates ensuring cosmic balance? The Egyptians revered symmetry not just in art but in sacred architecture, believing duplicates anchored Maat, the order of the universe. If the visible pyramids were the light counterparts, their shadows might lie beneath, guarding secrets too potent for the surface. This duality extends beyond Egypt. In Bosnia, the controversial Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun shares the Great Pyramid's orientation and geometry, while in China, the White Pyramid of Zion, long dismissed as legend, was reportedly spotted by World War II pilots, its silhouette eerily familiar. Coincidence or fragments of a global pattern? Whether hidden chambers or lost sister sites, these echoes challenge us to rethink the pyramids not as isolated marvels but as part of a grander design, one where every monument had a twin, and every twin held a piece of the puzzle. And if that's true, what does that mean for the other twins waiting to be uncovered? Half buried in the Cambodian jungle, the sprawling ruins of Angkor Wat rise like a mirage, a temple so vast it was once mistaken for a lost city. But just 40 kilometers away lies its shadowy counterpart, Bengmelia, a site so architecturally similar, locals call it Angkor Wat's twin. At first glance, the two temples share more than just sandstone blocks. Both are laid out in identical mandala patterns, their galleries and courtyards mirroring each other with precision. Both align to the cardinal directions, their central towers designed to capture the equinox sunrise. Even the intricate bas-reliefs tell the same stories, carved with such consistency. It's as if the same hands worked on both sites. Yet Bengmelia is far less restored, its corridors choked with vines, its courtyards sunken into the earth. If Angkor Wat is the masterpiece, why does its twin look like a forgotten draft? The answer might lie in the Khmer Empire's dramatic collapse. By the 13th century, climate shifts and failed monsoons strained Angkor's vast water management system, triggering food shortages and political unrest. Inscriptions speak of shadow temples built during this turmoil, backup sites, meant to preserve sacred knowledge as the empire crumbled. Bengmelia fits this description perfectly. Its layout replicates Angkor Wat's, but its construction is rougher, its stones less finely fitted. Some researchers argue it was never meant to be finished, that it served as a ritual duplicate, a spiritual insurance policy should the capital fall. Local legends support this, whispering of a mirror city hidden beneath the jungle, where priests transferred sacred texts and statues as invaders closed in. But the parallels run deeper than politics. Both temples encode astronomical knowledge in their architecture. Angkor Wat's central tower aligns with the Draco constellation, while Bengmelia's corridors frame the same stars, just slightly offset. This isn't just imitation, it's intentional redundancy, like a scribe copying a manuscript word for word. The Khmer's revered cosmic order, believing temples anchored the divine to earth. Duplicating Angkor Wat may have been an act of devotion, ensuring the god's favor endured even if the original was lost. The most tantalizing clue lies beneath Bengmelia. LiDAR scans have revealed a network of submerged chambers, their layout eerily echoing Angkor Wat's upper terraces. Could these be the mirror city of legend, or perhaps something older? Some scholars note that sections of Bengmelia's foundation predate Angkor Wat itself, suggesting a startling possibility that the twin might actually be the original, its design later refined into the grander temple. From earthquakes to droughts, natural disasters plagued the Khmer Empire, leaving them acutely aware of impermanence. If Angkor Wat and Bengmelia are indeed twins, they represent more than architectural homage. They're a testament to humanity's obsession with outrunning time. After all, what drives a civilization to build the same temple twice unless they're terrified of losing it forever? And if the Khmers went to such lengths, who's to say other cultures didn't do the same? Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire city swallowed by the earth, temples cracked open, palaces reduced to rubble, generations of knowledge lost in an instant. This wasn't just a nightmare for ancient civilizations, it was a recurring reality. Natural disasters didn't just shape landscapes, they rewrote history, leaving survivors with an urgent choice: rebuild or vanish. And when the dust settled, many cultures chose to reconstruct not just their homes, but their most sacred sites, stone by identical stone, as if trying to outwit fate itself. Take Pompeii, frozen in time by Vesuvius's wrath in 79 AD. Less known is how Roman engineers later replicated its layout in nearby towns, copying street grids and forum designs with eerie precision. They weren't just rebuilding, they were resurrecting a blueprint, ensuring continuity even as the original city lay buried. This pattern repeats globally. In Japan, the Ai's Grand Shrine has been torn down and rebuilt every 20 years for over a millennium, using the same ancient techniques and identical dimensions. The reason: Shinto beliefs hold that renewal wards off decay, both physical and spiritual. Each reconstruction isn't just a copy, it's a ritual, a defiance of entropy. But perhaps the most striking examples come from the Americas. The Maya city of Capon was leveled by earthquakes around 800 AD. Its pyramids toppled like dominoes. Yet within decades, new structures rose atop the ruins, mirroring the old layouts so precisely that archaeologists initially mistook them for repairs. The truth was more profound. These weren't repairs but reincarnations, a civilization insisting, "We are still here." The same phenomenon appears at Teotihuacan, where later Aztec builders replicated its Avenue of the Dead after a catastrophic fire, aligning new temples to the same celestial markers as the originals. Why this obsession with duplication? Psychology offers a clue. Studies on collective trauma show that after disasters, communities often cling to familiar structures, literal and symbolic, to regain a sense of control. For ancient societies, sacred sites were more than buildings. They were anchors of identity, vessels of divine favor. Losing them meant losing their connection to the gods, to history, to themselves. Rebuilding identical twins wasn't just practical, it was therapeutic, a way to stitch time back together. But here's the twist: some of these replicas aren't just about preservation. Beneath the surface, subtle deviations emerge. A chamber shifted a few degrees, a hidden corridor absent in the original. Like a game of architectural telephone, each copy carries slight mutations, hinting at secrets too dangerous to leave unchanged. Which raises a darker possibility. What if some twins weren't built to remember but to conceal? Throughout history, the greatest treasures weren't just hidden, they were disguised. Imagine a pharaoh's burial chamber so well protected that even its location was a lie. Its riches stashed not in the grand tomb but in an unmarked duplicate miles away. This wasn't paranoia, it was strategy. From Egypt's Valley of the Kings to the jungles of Mesoamerica, evidence suggests some twin ruins weren't backups but decoys, deliberately built to mislead invaders and protect secrets too valuable to lose. Take the legend of Oak Island's money pit, a booby-trapped shaft rumored to hold pirate treasure or Templar relics. What makes it fascinating isn't just the mystery of what's buried there, it's the persistent claims of identical shafts nearby, each one a carefully crafted replica designed to send treasure hunters spiraling into dead ends. Modern excavations have revealed wooden platforms and flood tunnels mirroring each other with eerie precision, as if the original builders were playing a high-stakes game of shell games with their loot. Ancient societies took this deception even further. The Knights Templar, whispered to have smuggled sacred relics out of Jerusalem, allegedly built mirrored vaults across Europe, one to display, the other to conceal. In Malta, twin catacombs beneath Rabat show identical layouts, but only one holds the bones of saints. The other sits conspicuously empty, its walls scarred by centuries of fruitless searches. Even the pyramids of Mara in Sudan follow this pattern, with false chambers and dummy corridors outnumbering real burial sites 3 to 1. But why go to such lengths? Because nothing draws thieves like fame. When Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered, its untouched splendor proved how effective decoys could be. While the lavish tombs of greater pharaohs were ransacked, his modest burial site survived precisely because it was overlooked. The Maya understood this too. At Palenque, the Temple of the Inscriptions houses Pakal's sarcophagus, but hidden beneath its floor lies a near-identical chamber, its walls bare, its purpose unclear. Was it a backup or a trap for the greedy? Today, technology is peeling back these layers of deception. Ground-penetrating radar reveals hollow spaces behind temple walls, while multispectral imaging uncovers erased inscriptions hinting at relocated treasures. In Turkey, scans of Mount Ararat have detected multiple cave systems matching descriptions of Noah's Ark's resting place, but which one holds the truth and which are red herrings? Even satellite archaeology is joining the hunt, spotting telltale soil disturbances around known ruins that suggest hidden twins waiting to be exposed. The question lingers: if so many duplicates were built to deceive, how do we separate the mirrors from the originals? And what does that mean for the treasures or truth still hidden in plain sight? For centuries, the search for twin ruins relied on luck and intuition, wandering through jungles, brushing dust off forgotten inscriptions, following rumors whispered across generations. But today, archaeologists wield tools straight out of science fiction, technologies that peel back layers of earth and time to reveal what the naked eye could never see. At the forefront is LiDAR, a laser scanning system that strips away dense foliage to expose the bones of lost cities beneath. In 2018, this tech unveiled a sprawling mirror of Cambodia's Angkor Wat, a network of roads and temples hidden under jungle canopies for centuries, matching the main site's layout with unsettling precision. But LiDAR's magic isn't just in revealing structures, it's in spotting patterns. When scans over Central America showed identical pyramid clusters built miles apart, their alignments differing by mere inches, researchers realized they weren't looking at separate cities but deliberate replicas, like pages copied from the same blueprint. Then there's ground-penetrating radar, the echolocation of archaeology. While LiDAR maps surfaces, GPR listens to whispers beneath the soil. In 2021, it detected a hollow chamber beneath Petra's famous treasury, a space matching the monument's dimensions exactly, as if someone had flipped the building upside down underground. Nearby, scans revealed a shadow city with streets mirroring Petra's main pathways, but offset by 30 degrees. At first, geologists argued these were natural caves, but the angles were too perfect, the corners too sharp. Man-made echoes don't erode like stone, they carry intention. Satellite imagery adds another layer, literally. By analyzing minute differences in vegetation growth and soil moisture, satellites can spot buried walls invisible from the ground. When researchers fed thousands of satellite images into AI systems, the algorithm flagged anomalies near Egypt's Giza plateau, a series of rectangular depressions aligning with the pyramid's cardinal points, their shapes too uniform to be erosion. Even more intriguing, similar patterns appeared in Mexico's Teotihuacan and Cambodia's Khmer, as if someone had drawn connecting lines across continents. But technology alone can't solve the puzzle. Enter citizen archaeologists, ordinary people sifting through data from home. Platforms like Global Explorer crowdsource image analysis, letting volunteers flag potential sites. In 2019, a schoolteacher in Norway noticed duplicate temple foundations in Peru's satellite scans, leading to the discovery of a paired ceremonial complex. Yet for every breakthrough, skepticism lingers. When thermal imaging suggested hidden chambers in Tutankhamun's tomb, traditional Egyptologists dismissed them as temperature fluctuations. When drones mapped a second Stonehenge beneath Ireland's Boyne Valley, critics called it wishful thinking. The challenge isn't just finding twins, it's proving they're more than coincidence. Because nature loves symmetry too. Wind carves repeating patterns in rock, water smooths stone into familiar shapes. The key lies in the outliers, the right angles where curves should be, the mathematically precise gaps between walls. A single matching ruin might be chance, but when tools uncover dozens, echoing across deserts and jungles, the weight of evidence tips the scales. After all, if these were mere accidents of geology, why do they keep pointing to the same stars? For every bold theory that challenges the status quo, there's an equally fierce pushback from the academic world, and the twin tombs theory is no exception. Skeptics argue that attributing mirrored ruins to deliberate replication violates Occam's razor, the principle that the simplest explanation is usually correct. Why assume ancient cultures went to extraordinary lengths to duplicate sites when shared architectural techniques or universal human instincts, like aligning temples to the stars, could explain the similarities? It's a fair point. After all, pyramids emerged independently across the globe because stacking stones into stable, towering shapes isn't just mystical, it's practical. But where does practicality end and intention begin? The debate hinges on that razor's edge between coincidence and design, and archaeology's reluctance to entertain the latter without ironclad proof. Take the case of Bosnia's so-called Pyramid Hills. In the early 2000s, amateur researcher Khmer Osmanagic claimed a cluster of natural hills near Visoko were ancient, man-made pyramids, pointing to their symmetrical slopes and tunnel networks as evidence. The scientific community erupted in backlash, with geologists demonstrating the formations were entirely natural. The controversy became a cautionary tale, a reminder that pareidolia, our tendency to see patterns where none exist, can lead even earnest researchers astray. Yet buried in that skepticism lies a paradox. If we dismiss every anomaly as illusion, might we also be blinding ourselves to genuine mysteries? The twin tombs theory walks this tightrope, demanding scrutiny without dismissal, curiosity without credulity. The greatest hurdle isn't just academic resistance, it's the silence of the archaeological record. Unlike a pottery shard or a carved inscription, intentional replication leaves no tangible fingerprint. How do you prove a ruin was built to mirror another when the builders left no instruction manual? Mainstream scholars point to the absence of direct evidence, no ancient text stating, "We copied this temple from a lost original." But absence of proof isn't proof of absence, especially when so much of the past remains buried. Less than 10% of Egypt's known sites have been excavated. Entire cities languish under jungles or modern metropolises. What if the missing links, the blueprints, the trade routes, the oral traditions simply haven't been found yet? This isn't to say every similarity signals a twin. Nature loves symmetry, and human cultures converge on solutions independently. But when ruins separated by continents share not just broad strokes but minute details, the width of a corridor, the angle of a staircase, it's worth asking whether we're dealing with parallel evolution or something more deliberate. Perhaps the answer lies not in the stones themselves, but in the minds of those who laid them. Because if ancient builders did replicate these sites intentionally, they weren't just copying architecture, they were preserving something far more fragile, an idea. And that leads us to the most compelling question of all. What was so important that it had to be built twice? Ancient cultures didn't just build structures, they encoded the universe into stone. The concept of as above, so below wasn't poetic metaphor to them. It was a cosmic law, and their architecture was the mirror. When they designed twin tombs or temples, they weren't merely copying layouts, they were recreating celestial patterns on Earth, crafting physical anchors for divine balance. Think of Malta's megalithic temples like Haga Kim and Mnajdra, standing just kilometers apart yet aligned to the same solstice sunrises with pinpoint accuracy. Their matching corridors and altars aren't redundant, they're ritual echoes, each one a harmonic note in a grander symphony of sacred geometry. This obsession with duality went deeper than symmetry. For civilizations from Egypt to Mesoamerica, duplication was alchemy, a way to fuse the material and spiritual worlds. The mandala's repeating patterns, the yin-yang's interlocking halves, even the Fibonacci spiral's infinite recursion. All these symbols reflect a universal truth: creation thrives in pairs. The Maya built twin pyramids at Tikal, one representing the sun, the other the moon, their staircases climbing toward mirrored heavens. The Egyptians carved subterranean chambers beneath Luxor's temples, creating shadow versions where priests performed inverted rituals. These weren't just backups, they were metaphysical circuits designed to channel energy between realms. But the most tantalizing clue lies in the anomalies, the slight deviations between twins. Malta's Tarxian temples share nearly identical floor plans, yet one holds carvings of spirals, the other of bulls. The difference isn't random. Spirals symbolized the soul's journey, bulls represented earthly strength. Together, they balanced ascent and grounding. Similarly, Cambodia's Angkor Thom and Angkor Wat share celestial alignments, but Thom's gates are crowned with giant faces gazing inward, while Wat's towers reach outward. The message, one temple turned its wisdom toward the self, the other toward the cosmos. This precision raises a provocative question. If ancient builders put such care into these mirrored designs, what were they trying to amplify or contain? Some researchers point to acoustic engineering. Certain twin sites, like Ireland's Newgrange and Noath, share not just layouts but resonant frequencies, their chambers humming at identical pitches when struck. Others note electromagnetic oddities. Pairs like Peru's Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo sit atop intersecting ley lines, their stones laced with quartz deposits that may have acted as energy conduits. The most radical theory, that originals held technologies lost to time, devices harnessing sacred geometry's power, and duplicates were attempts to preserve the blueprint, if not the function. Plato hinted at this, describing Atlantis's crystal-powered temples. Hindu texts speak of Vimana blueprints guarded in twin shrines. Even the Bible's Ark of the Covenant had a near-identical counterpart, the mysterious Ark of the Testimony, suggesting a prototype and its replica. Whether these were metaphors or mechanics, one thing is clear. To ancient minds, duplication wasn't redundancy, it was resurrection. And if that's true, what might still lie hidden in the ruins we've yet to pair? The stones of Puma Punku lie scattered across the Bolivian highlands like a dismantled puzzle, each block cut with such geometric precision, their edges still gleam razor-sharp after centuries of exposure. What's baffling isn't just their craftsmanship but the stark contrast to later Andean ruins nearby. The walls of Sacsayhuaman, for all their grandeur, show clear signs of wear, their stones crudely fitted compared to Puma Punku's seamless joints. This isn't a matter of evolving skill, it's a regression, like finding a smartphone buried beneath a pile of rotary phones. The older site displays a mastery that later builders couldn't replicate. So what happened? Did the original architects vanish along with their techniques? Or were these ruins meant to be a message, a warning of knowledge too easily lost? Legends from around the world whisper of similar gaps in understanding. Ancient Hindu texts describe Vimana's flying chariots powered by mercury vortex engines, their blueprints guarded in twin temples across India. The descriptions are eerily specific: gold-coated hulls, crystal lenses for navigation, even warnings about improper operation causing instantaneous combustion. Modern scholars dismiss these as myth, but when you compare them to the precision of Puma Punku's drill holes, perfect cylinders bored into granite with uncanny accuracy, it's hard not to wonder. Were these stories metaphorical or technical manuals for tools we no longer comprehend? Consider the tools themselves. Conventional archaeology insists Puma Punku stones were shaped with bronze chisels and hammerstones, yet experiments show these methods can't reproduce the site's signature H-shaped blocks or interlocking channels. Even today, replicating that precision would require diamond-tipped saws and computer-guided lasers. Meanwhile, local Aymara legends speak of builders who softened stone with herbs or used sun mirrors to slice through rock, tales often dismissed as fantasy. But in 2019, chemists analyzing Egyptian pyramid stones found traces of a synthetic mineral that forms under high heat, suggesting some form of ancient geopolymer technology. Could the herbs and mirrors of myth have been code words for lost chemical or optical processes? The implications ripple outward. If originals like Puma Punku were built with advanced methods, their twins might represent desperate attempts to recreate them using inferior tools. Look at the differences between Egypt's Great Pyramid and its successors. The later pyramids at Dasha and Meidum slump under their own weight, their corners misaligned, their chambers cracked, as if the builders were working from half-remembered instructions. The same pattern appears in Mesoamerica, where early Teotihuacan's flawless concrete contrasts with later Aztec copies made of rubble and mortar. It's as if each generation inherited a fading echo of the original knowledge, their reconstructions growing cruder with each iteration. Oral traditions offer a clue to how this happened. Indigenous cultures worldwide share a curious practice, encoding practical knowledge into songs, dances, even children's rhymes. The Aboriginal songlines of Australia, for instance, double as navigational maps, with each verse marking landmarks and water sources. Similarly, Polynesian voyagers memorized star paths through chants that could guide canoes across thousands of miles of open ocean. Could the Vimana texts or Aymara stone softening legends be the same mnemonic devices preserving complex engineering in story form? If so, the danger is obvious. Lose one generation of storytellers, and suddenly sun mirrors become mere poetry, their technical meaning erased. This raises the most haunting possibility of all, that our ancestors weren't just building duplicates to preserve sacred sites, but to salvage the very idea of what those sites could do. The precision, the alignments, the materials, they weren't just aesthetic choices. They were functional specifications, parts of a system we're only beginning to glimpse. And if that's true, then every mismatched stone in these twin ruins isn't just a mistake, it's a silent testament to how much we've forgotten. Long before ink touched parchment, knowledge lived in the breath of storytellers passed down through generations in songs, chants, and fireside tales. Among the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, the Dreamtime isn't just mythology. It's a living map, its stories woven with descriptions of primordial structures that once dotted the landscape. These first tombs, as elders described them, weren't mere burial sites but portals to the ancestral realm, built by creator beings in the dawn of time. Some tales speak of towering stone arches that hummed when the wind struck them just right, or chambers hidden beneath waterfalls where the bones of the first people glowed with celestial light. Today, archaeologists are discovering eerie echoes of these descriptions in places like the Ungaut caves, where millennia-old rock carvings align with Dreamtime narratives of sacred underground networks, suggesting these stories might be more than metaphor. They could be memories. Flood myths across cultures deepen this connection. The Yolngu people of Arnhem Land sing of a great deluge that swallowed the first houses of the ancestors, their coral stone walls now said to lie beneath the Arafura Sea. Half a world away, the Choctaw Nation's oral history recounts a similar catastrophe, with entire cities of the mound builders vanishing under rising waters. Their descriptions of these lost sites, circular plazas flanked by earthen pyramids, precisely aligned to the solstices, match the ruins later unearthed along the Mississippi River. But here's the twist. Many of these submerged city legends specify that survivors rebuilt exact replicas inland, as if the original blueprints were too sacred to abandon. The Choctaws' Naniweya Mound, for example, is said to mirror a drowned ancestor city down to the angle of its stairways. Modern researchers are finally learning to listen. Linguists and anthropologists have developed a method called geomythology, cross-referencing oral histories with geological data to pinpoint potential sites. In 2016, a team working with the Tlingit people of Alaska used traditional navigation charts to locate a submerged reef described in their flood stories, a reef that turned out to match an ancient landslide's debris field. Similarly, when Maori elders in New Zealand shared genealogical charts mentioning the buried houses of Uamoco, seismologists realized they were describing fault lines where earthquakes had indeed swallowed settlements centuries ago. These aren't just lucky guesses, they're proof that oral traditions often encode precise geographical and architectural details under layers of symbolism. The challenge lies in decoding the metaphors. When the Hopi speak of snake doors leading to underground chambers, they might mean literal serpent carvings marking tunnel entrances, like those found at Peru's Chavin de Huanta. When Cherokee stories describe star vaults where ancestors stored celestial knowledge, they could be referring to astronomical alignments in mound complexes like Georgia's Etowah. The key is collaboration, with scientists and indigenous communities working together to separate poetic language from practical instruction. Because if these stories are correct, the first tombs aren't entirely lost, they're waiting, their locations whispered in the cadence of an elder's voice, the rhythm of a ceremonial drum, the refrain of a song older than written history. And that changes everything. Buried in the vaults of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace lies a map that shouldn't exist, the Piri Rise chart of 1513, a fragment of parchment showing coastlines with impossible precision. Drawn by an Ottoman admiral, it depicts Antarctica's ice-free contours centuries before the continent was officially discovered. But here's the real mystery. Some researchers claim its accuracy hints at a lost source map, one copied from an even older original. Could this be proof that ancient civilizations not only knew of distant lands, but meticulously duplicated their cartographic knowledge before it vanished? The Piri Rise isn't alone. The Vinland map, controversially dated to pre-Columbian Europe, sketches North America's coastline with unsettling detail, while the Cantino planisphere of 1502 traces Africa's rivers so precisely. Scholars argue it must have been copied from Phoenician or Arab prototypes now lost to time. These maps don't just chart geography, they whisper of a global network of knowledge, where master copies were safeguarded and duplicates scattered like breadcrumbs across the centuries. The emerald tablets of Hermes Trismegistus take this idea further. These cryptic texts, purportedly written on indestructible green crystal, describe sacred architecture with a curious directive: as above, so below; as within, so without. Alchemists interpreted this as spiritual metaphor, but what if it was literal? The tablets speak of mirror temples built to house divine secrets, their layouts echoing celestial patterns. One passage even specifies that the first House of Thoth was replicated in a land beyond the Western waters, a possible nod to parallels between Egypt's pyramids and Mesoamerican step pyramids. Of course, the tablets' authenticity is debated, but their descriptions align eerily with archaeological oddities. Take the underground complex beneath Hawara in Egypt, often called the Labyrinth by ancient historians. Strabo wrote of its 3,000 chambers, half above, half below, matching the emerald tablets' claim of paired structures. Today, satellite imagery reveals subterranean anomalies near Hawara that mirror the surface ruins, as if someone built a shadow version beneath the sand. This isn't just about connecting dots, it's about questioning whose dots we're connecting. Scholars like Dr. Carmen Bolter of the University of Calgary use geomythology to cross-reference ancient texts with geological surveys, hunting for lost originals. Her team compared Sumerian cylinder seals describing temples of the 7 directions with LiDAR scans of the Turkish highlands, identifying buried structures whose layouts match the descriptions. Meanwhile, independent researcher Andrew Collins traces Plato's Atlantis accounts to submerged terraces off Cuba, arguing they mirror the sacred geometry of Andean sites like Puma, Punku. But this work walks a razor's edge. Confirmation bias looms large. When you're searching for twins, even vague similarities can feel like proof. Mainstream archaeologists point to the Nazca Line's purported runway patterns as cautionary tales. Once hailed as evidence of ancient aviation, they're now understood as ritual pathways. The lesson: extraordinary claims demand not just parallels but irrefutable chains of evidence. Yet the allure persists, because if even one of these mirrored connections holds, it rewrites history. Imagine a world where sacred blueprints crossed oceans millennia before Columbus, where priests and architects shared knowledge we've since forgotten. The maps and texts hint at this not as smoking guns, but as fragments of a puzzle we're still assembling. And that puzzle leads us to a deeper question. Why would our ancestors go to such lengths to duplicate these sites? Was it reverence, fear, or something more primal? The answer might lie not in the stones they left behind, but in the minds that shaped them. Humanity's obsession with hidden originals runs deeper than archaeology. It's etched into our psychology. There's something electrifying about the idea that beneath the ruins we know, there might lie others, older and more mysterious, waiting to rewrite history. This isn't just curiosity. It's a primal pull, the same instinct that makes us lean in when someone whispers, "I've got a secret." Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of symbols and stories that shape human imagination. Across cultures, we see the same motifs: buried cities, lost blueprints, shadow versions of sacred sites. Whether it's the Egyptian Duat or the Mayan Xibalba, these aren't just myths. They're expressions of a deep-seated belief that truth is layered, that every visible thing has its invisible twin. But why tombs? Why do these doubled structures captivate us so intensely? Tombs are thresholds, places where the living and the dead brush shoulders. When we imagine a hidden original beneath a known ruin, we're not just speculating about architecture, we're flirting with immortality. The Great Pyramid isn't just a pile of stones, it's a machine built to cheat death. Its mirrored chambers and shafts reflecting the ancient Egyptians' conviction that duplication could anchor the soul. This idea resonates today. Think of how we back up hard drives or store seeds in Arctic vaults. We're still building twins, still hedging against oblivion. Skeptics, of course, wave this away as romantic projection. They argue that similar tomb designs spring from convergent evolution, the same way fish and dolphins both evolved fins. Cultures facing similar challenges, like honoring the dead or aligning with the stars, arrive at similar solutions independently: the stepped pyramids of Mesopotamia and Mesoamerica. Practical engineering, the shared use of gold in burial chambers, a universal symbol of purity. But this explanation feels unsatisfying when confronted with the precision of certain twins. It's one thing to independently invent the arch. It's another to build two temples with corridors offset by the exact same angle, as if following a divine ruler. Which raises the provocative question: does the twin tombs theory reveal more about us than the ancients? Our modern hunger for hidden truths, for conspiracies, for alternate histories, might color how we interpret these echoes. The internet age has trained us to look for patterns, to dig for deeper layers. When we see matching ruins, we instinctively assume intention, as if the past is a puzzle designed for us to solve. But what if the ancients weren't whispering secrets? What if they were simply doing what humans do, copying what worked, iterating on the past, sometimes brilliantly, sometimes clumsily? Yet there's another force at play, one far more pragmatic: economics. Building duplicates wasn't just spiritual, it was strategic. Sacred sites drew pilgrims, and pilgrims brought wealth. When Thebes became overcrowded, Egyptian pharaohs constructed mirror temples in Abydos, ensuring the revenue and divine favor flowed to both cities. The Maya did the same, cloning ceremonial centers along trade routes to consolidate power. Even the Catholic Church replicated Jerusalem's Via Dolorosa in European towns, turning local chapels into profit-generating pilgrimage stops. In this light, twin tombs aren't mystical, they're marketing. They're the ancient equivalent of franchise locations, standardized to assure visitors they'd get the same sacred experience whether in Luxor or Lisbon. So where does that leave us, caught between wonder and pragmatism, between the allure of hidden truths and the banality of human nature? maybe the real magic of the twin tombs theory isn't in proving that originals exist, it's in realizing how desperately, across millennia, we've wanted them to. Power wasn't just seized in the ancient world, it was carved into stone. When Roman emperors conquered Greece, they didn't just loot its treasures, they shipped home exact replicas of its statues, placing copies of Zeus in their forums and cloned Apollos in their baths. This wasn't admiration, it was annexation by artistry, a way to siphon the prestige of a civilization they'd subdued. The same strategy may explain why rulers from Egypt to Mesoamerica commissioned twin ruins. Take the Roman city of Verulamium in Britain, a near-perfect mirror of Italica in Spain, down to its grid of streets and placement of temples. By stamping familiar blueprints onto foreign soil, Rome didn't just impose order, it manufactured déjà vu, making conquest feel like homecoming. But duplication wasn't just about dominance, it was crisis management. When resources dwindled, rulers faced a brutal choice: abandon sacred building traditions or adapt them. The Mayan city of Capon offers a stark example. At its peak, its pyramids gleamed with polished limestone, their staircases adorned with intricate hieroglyphs. Yet after a series of droughts, later rulers resorted to rubble cores faced with thin veneer structures that looked imposing from afar but were hollow compromises. Archaeologists call this the veneer effect, where societies under strain preserve the illusion of grandeur while cutting corners. The same pattern appears in Egypt's later pyramids, their inner chambers packed with loose fill instead of precision-cut blocks. These weren't failures of skill but calculated trade-offs, proving even the mightiest civilizations could be forced to build in shorthand. Religion supercharged this practice. Just as Roman emperors claimed divine favor by cloning Greek gods, pharaohs and kings used architectural twins to cement their spiritual authority. The temple complex of Karnak wasn't just a religious hub, it was a franchise. Lesser versions dotted the Nile, their layouts matching Karnak so precisely that visiting priests could perform rituals without missing a step. This spiritual standardization had a dark edge. When Akhenaten broke with tradition to build Amarna, his radical new city was erased after his death, its stones recycled to restore the correct duplicates. The message was clear: innovation was heresy, fidelity to the sacred blueprint was divine law. What emerges is a pattern far more pragmatic than mystical. Twin ruins weren't just acts of devotion or desperate preservation, they were tools of control, wielded to tame both conquered lands and restless populaces. When a people saw their gods' houses rising in familiar forms, even in foreign lands, it whispered that the old order endured, and when those copies grew cruder, it signaled not just fading resources but the slow unraveling of the system itself. Because the most telling thing about these architectural echoes isn't how they're made, it's what happens when the copying stops. In the heart of Hinduism's sacred texts lies a commandment as old as the faith itself: where one temple stands, let there be another. This isn't just about expansion, it's about replication as worship. Across India, identical shrines rise in pairs, their layouts mirroring each other down to the placement of oil lamps and the angle of deity statues. Take the twin temples of Khajuraho, one dedicated to Shiva, the other to Vishnu, their spires and mandapas echoing each other with such precision. Pilgrims often feel they've stepped into a divine reflection. The reason: Hindu cosmology teaches that the gods exist simultaneously in multiple realms, and duplicating their earthly homes maintains cosmic balance. It's a belief so ingrained that when a new temple is consecrated, priests chant from ancient manuals specifying the shadow site, a counterpart built to anchor the divine presence in the material world. No culture embodies this practice more vividly than Japan's Ise Grand Shrine. every 20 years, like clockwork, the shrine's wooden buildings are carefully dismantled, their materials distributed as talismans, while an identical replica rises beside the old site. This ritual, called Shikainen Sengu, isn't renovation, it's rebirth. The new shrine isn't just a copy, it's considered the same shrine, its essence transferred through sacred chants and ceremonial knots tied in ropes made of rice straw. The old structure isn't discarded, it's returned to the earth, completing a cycle as old as the shrine itself. What looks like preservation is actually a metaphysical act. By rebuilding, the priests reset time itself, ensuring the sun goddess Amaterasu's favor never wavers. This idea of eternal return isn't unique to Japan. The Aztecs rebuilt their Templo Maya over 7 layers, each a perfect replica of the last, believing the world would end if the cycle fractured. Norse myth spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree, whose roots and branches mirrored each other across 9 realms. Even Plato's Timaeus describes a universe where history repeats in grand cycles, each epoch crowned by a rebirth of sacred structures. Could twin tombs fit this pattern? When archaeologists found near-identical burial chambers beneath the step pyramid of Djoser, one for the pharaoh, one eerily empty, some researchers theorized it was a temporal anchor, a way to tether the king's soul to both this world and the next. Modern science struggles to reconcile these spiritual dimensions with cold, hard evidence. How do you carbon date intent? How do you prove a chamber was built for ritual duplication rather than storage? Some archaeologists, like Dr. Miriam Stark, advocate for cognitive archaeology, a method that treats ancient beliefs as data, parsing myths and rituals for clues. Her team's work at Cambodia's Angkor Wat revealed that its twin, Bengmelia, wasn't just a backup. Its shifted alignments matched a specific lunar eclipse mentioned in Khmer texts, suggesting the duplicate was calibrated for an astrological event the original couldn't accommodate. Yet skepticism lingers, without written records explicitly stating this tomb copies that one. Scholars default to practical explanations, storage needs, structural support, even royal vanity. But what if we're missing the forest for the trees? When a Mayan king built a pyramid atop his predecessors, aligning its stairs to the same star, was he just saving effort? Or was he enacting a truth we've forgotten, that some things must be built twice to endure even once? The answer might lie not in the stones we can touch, but in the minds we can only imagine. Modern archaeology walks a tightrope between hard evidence and tantalizing possibility. On one side, there's the meticulous world of peer-reviewed journals, carbon dating, and grid excavations where every claim must survive the scalpel of skepticism. On the other, theories like the twin tombs dangle like forbidden fruit, offering narratives so compelling they blur the line between fact and fantasy. The tension isn't just academic, it's financial. Grants flow freely to sites with clear historical pedigrees: Roman villas, Egyptian necropolises, while speculative digs, no matter how intriguing, often languish in crowdfunding limbo. It's a bias baked into the system. Why risk reputation and funding chasing shadows when you can publish papers on well-trodden ground? Yet history remembers the exceptions. Heinrich Schliemann's hunt for Troy was mocked until he unearthed a city exactly where Homer's epic said it would be. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe shattered timelines, proving complex societies existed millennia earlier than textbooks claimed. These breakthroughs didn't come from playing it safe, they came from daring to ask what if. The twin tombs theory now sits at that crossroads. Mainstream archaeologists point to the lack of smoking gun evidence. No chiseled inscription reading copy of lost original, while proponents counter that absence of proof isn't proof of absence. After all, how many ancient builders left instruction manuals? The solution might lie in blending tools old and new. interdisciplinary teams, geologists reading soil layers like palimpsests, mythologists decoding oral traditions, even physicists analyzing stone-cutting techniques, are bridging the gap. At Turkey's Derinkuyu, archaeologists teamed up with acoustics experts to prove its underground chambers weren't just shelters but resonant spaces designed to amplify ritual chants. Similar collaborations could test the twin tombs theory. If two ruins share celestial alignments, could their builders have shared star maps? If their stones were quarried from the same bedrock despite being continents apart, does that hint at forgotten trade routes? Pop culture, meanwhile, has already cast its vote. From Indiana Jones to the Da Vinci Code, audiences crave stories of hidden originals and encrypted blueprints. Hollywood's embrace of fringe theories isn't just entertainment, it's a mirror reflecting our collective hunger for mysteries deeper than dirt and older than empires. And sometimes, just sometimes, that hunger leads science to places it wouldn't dare go alone. Hollywood has a love affair with lost cities and mirrored ruins because nothing sells tickets like the thrill of uncovering what was meant to stay hidden. Take Indiana Jones stumbling into the canyon of the Crescent Moon, where Petra's treasury conceals a second, more ancient temple beneath its floor, or Lara Croft deciphering glyphs that lead not to one tomb, but its twin buried miles away. These stories tap into something primal, the idea that history's greatest secrets aren't just forgotten, they're deliberately duplicated, waiting for the right explorer to connect the dots. Games like Assassin's Creed take it further, weaving entire narratives around precursor civilizations whose ruins echo across continents, their architecture too similar to be coincidence. But why does this trope grip us so tightly? It's the ultimate mashup of mystery and validation, the notion that if you look hard enough, the past will reveal its patterns. When National Treasure's Ben Gates finds a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence, or the Da Vinci Code's Robert Langdon deciphers a hidden chamber beneath the Louvre, they're not just solving puzzles, they're proving that history has a cheat code. These stories work because they mirror our own suspicions, that textbooks are incomplete, that authorities miss clues, and that truth favors the curious. The downside, glamorization often bulldozes nuance. Films reduce archaeology to a high-stakes treasure hunt, where every artifact comes with a booby trap and every scholar is either a villain or a sidekick. Real research is less about dodging boulders and more about painstakingly comparing soil layers or debating ceramic typologies in dimly lit conference rooms. Yet for all their inaccuracies, these stories have an unexpected upside. They fund real science. After Indiana Jones hit theaters in the 1980s, university archaeology programs saw enrollment spikes. The Tomb Raider franchise inspired a generation of young women to pick up trowels. Even Assassin's Creed's historical consultants have spun their game research into peer-reviewed papers on forgotten sites. The key is engaging with the twin tombs theory without mistaking myth for method. Start by cross-referencing pop culture's wildest claims with academic databases like JSTOR or Archaeology Magazine. When a movie mentions a hidden chamber beneath the Sphinx, dig into Zahi Hawass's excavation reports before believing the hype. Join citizen science projects like Global Explorer, where you can analyze satellite imagery for real undiscovered ruins. And remember, the most thrilling discoveries often lack Hollywood's shine. The real twin of Angkor Wat wasn't a booby-trapped labyrinth, it was Bengmelia, a crumbling site where archaeologists found receipts for stone shipments, revealing how the Khmer Empire managed its architectural franchise. The next time you watch a hero unearth a lost city's double, let it fuel your curiosity, not your credulity, because the truth about twin ruins isn't hidden in crystal skulls or Templar ciphers. It's waiting in plain sight, etched into stones we've walked past for centuries, if only we'd think to look twice. The thrill of uncovering lost ruins or decoding ancient secrets is undeniable, but that excitement comes with responsibility. Across the globe, fragile sites bear scars from careless hands. In the jungles of Guatemala, looters have tunneled through Maya temples, shattering intricate murals and stealing artifacts that once held clues to vanished rituals. In Egypt, graffiti defaces pyramid walls, while in Peru, tourists pocket stones from sacred sites, unaware each missing fragment erases a piece of history. The damage isn't just physical, it's intellectual. Every disturbed layer, every looted relic is a page torn from humanity's shared story. This isn't about shutting doors to curiosity, it's about opening them the right way. Ethical tourism means treading lightly, sticking to marked paths, resisting the urge to touch carvings, and supporting local guides who know how to balance access with preservation. Organizations like SciArc offer another solution: laser scanning entire sites to create immersive digital archives. Their work at Chichen Itza captures every detail of El Castillo, from weathered steps to hidden chambers, allowing anyone to explore virtually without risking harm to the original. It's a model for the future preservation through technology, not restriction. For amateur researchers, the rules are simple but vital. Never move artifacts, photograph them in place. Report findings to professionals instead of sharing GPS pins online, which can attract looters. Join citizen science initiatives like Global Explorer, where satellite imagery analysis helps identify at-risk sites without setting foot on them. Even social media plays a role. Tagging posts with #Don't Touch the Walls raises awareness, while geotagging responsibly using broad locations like Yucatan Peninsula instead of exact coordinates protects vulnerable spots. The future of twin tomb research hinges on this balance. New tools, from AI that reconstructs eroded inscriptions to drones mapping inaccessible ruins, are democratizing discovery without destruction. When archaeologists used 3D modeling to rebuild Palmyra's Arch of Triumph after its destruction, they proved that even lost originals can live on through their digital twins. Perhaps that's the ultimate lesson. True exploration isn't about claiming the past but safeguarding it, so the next generation can stand where we stood and see further. The hunt for twin ruins is entering its most exciting chapter yet, thanks to technologies that sound like science fiction. Quantum radar, still in its infancy, could revolutionize archaeology by detecting subtle density variations deep underground, revealing hidden chambers without disturbing a single grain of sand. Imagine scanning the Egyptian desert and finding voids that mirror known pyramids, their layouts matching like reflections in a buried mirror. Meanwhile, AI-powered pattern recognition is already sifting through satellite imagery, flagging sites with uncanny geometric similarities across continents. In 2023, a machine learning algorithm compared over 50,000 ruins worldwide and pinpointed 37 potential twin pairs, including matching stepped platforms in Mesopotamia and Peru that even seasoned archaeologists had overlooked. Among the most tantalizing unsolved mysteries are the ziggurats of ancient Ur and Dur-Kuragalt, two Mesopotamian structures separated by centuries yet sharing eerie design quirks. Both feature identically angled staircases converging at 72 degrees, and both have subterranean chambers aligned to the same star, Alpha Tauri. Mainstream archaeology chalks this up to cultural continuity. But what if the later ziggurat was a deliberate replica? Even more puzzling are the double tombs of China's Qin dynasty, where Emperor Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum complex reportedly includes a near-identical backup tomb, its entrance concealed behind a false river of mercury. If true, it would be the ultimate imperial insurance policy, a ruler so obsessed with eternity he built his afterlife twice. So where should we search next? Some researchers argue the answers lie beneath the waves. Sonar mapping of the Mediterranean's Doggerland, a landmass submerged since the Ice Age, has revealed mound structures resembling Brittany's Karnak stones. Others point to Antarctica's ice sheets, where ground-penetrating radar hints at geometric anomalies echoing Andean temple layouts. Even urban centers hold potential. Beneath modern Mexico City, scans suggest a second, smaller Templo Mayor may wait undiscovered, its chambers mirroring the Aztecs' most sacred site. These possibilities aren't just about finding lost buildings, they're about confronting a radical idea that ancient civilizations may have shared a global playbook we're only beginning to decipher. Whether through forgotten trade routes, catastrophic resets, or something even more profound, the Twin Tombs theory forces us to rethink humanity's oldest question: how much of our past is still waiting to be uncovered? And if these echoes are real, what does that say about the originals they were meant to preserve or replace? The stones may yet whisper their secrets, but only if we learn to listen with both technology and humility. If the Twin Tombs theory proves true, it doesn't just add footnotes to history, it rewrites entire chapters. For centuries, we've assumed ancient civilizations developed in isolation, their similarities chalked up to convergent evolution. But what if the echoes between distant ruins aren't coincidence? What if they're evidence of a forgotten network, a web of knowledge stretching across oceans and millennia? The implications are staggering. Suddenly, the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica aren't just parallel innovations, they could be nodes in a global system, like servers in an ancient internet. The precision of these mirrored sites suggests something radical, that our ancestors weren't just building tombs or temples, they were preserving blueprints, passing down sacred geometry like a baton in a relay race against time. Consider how loss shapes progress. Every major catastrophe, the collapse of the Bronze Age, the burning of Alexandria's library, left survivors scrambling to salvage what they could. The Dark Ages weren't dark because people forgot how to think. They were dark because the tools to transmit knowledge had shattered. Ancient cultures knew this vulnerability intimately. When the Minoan civilization crumbled under volcanic ash, their successors, the Mycenaeans, replicated their frescoes and labyrinthine palaces with near-identical precision. Was this mere imitation or a desperate act of cultural triage? The same pattern emerges in the wake of the Black Death, when medieval monks painstakingly copied ancient manuscripts, knowing each duplicate was a lifeline tethering the future to the past. Today, we're no different. Our obsession with digital backups, cloud storage, blockchain ledgers, even the doomsday seed vault, is just the latest iteration of this ancient impulse. NASA's Lunar Ark project plans to etch humanity's knowledge into metal disks and bury them in moon caves. Google's data centers are modern-day shadow temples, mirroring each other across continents to guard against disaster. The instinct to duplicate isn't just practical, it's encoded in our DNA. We're hardwired to fear oblivion, to build twins as bulwarks against the entropy that swallows empires. Yet there's a haunting counterpoint to this narrative. Every copy introduces drift. Like a game of telephone across generations, each replication risks distortion. The later pyramids of Egypt wobble on shoddy foundations. Angkor Wat's jungle-choked twin lacks its predecessor's polish. Even our digital backups degrade: file corruption, format obsolescence, the slow rot of bit rot. Perhaps the true lesson of the Twin Tombs isn't just that ancient civilizations were connected, but that they understood a grim truth: no copy is perfect, and no knowledge survives forever. Their greatest triumph wasn't in building duplicates, but in making sure enough echoes remain that someone, someday, might hear the original song. This changes how we see human progress. History isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, looping back on itself in cycles of loss and rediscovery. The Renaissance wasn't a sudden rebirth, it was the culmination of centuries of monks copying Aristotle by candlelight. The scientific revolution didn't spring from nowhere. It was fueled by Arabic translations of Greek texts preserved while Europe slept. If twin ruins teach us anything, it's that advancement isn't about constant innovation. Sometimes it's about stubborn repetition, about building the same thing twice so that one version might outlast the storm. So where does that leave us? At a crossroads, staring at the ruins we've inherited and the ones we're building for the future. The twin tombs theory isn't just an archaeological curiosity, it's a mirror held up to our own age. In a world where disinformation spreads faster than truth, where languages vanish yearly, and climate change threatens entire cultural archives, we're facing the same ancient dilemma: how to ensure that what matters survives. Maybe the answer lies in those shadow temples and buried chambers, in the insistence that some things are too precious to exist only once. Because if history has a pattern, it's this: civilizations don't fall when they're conquered. They fall when they stop copying what came before. Not every matching ruin is a twin. Sometimes history simply loves a good template. Take pyramids, those iconic structures that rise from deserts and jungles alike. At first glance, the stepped pyramids of Mesopotamia, the smooth-sided marvels of Egypt, and the temple-crowned peaks of Mesoamerica seem like clear evidence of a shared blueprint. But dig deeper and the story gets nuanced. Pyramids emerged independently because stacking stones into towering shapes isn't just sacred geometry, it's physics. A wide base and narrowing sides are the most stable way to build tall without modern engineering. That's convergent design, different cultures arriving at the same practical solution, like multiple inventors creating wheels without meeting. The line between coincidence and intentional duplication blurs when you examine the details. The ziggurats of Ur and Teotihuacan's Pyramid of the Sun both have staircases, but their angles differ by degrees, one aligned to the Pleiades, the other to the sun's zenith. These aren't photocopies, they're variations on a theme. Contrast that with Cambodia's Angkor Wat and Bengmelia, where doorways share millimeter-perfect proportions, or Egypt's Giza and Dasha complexes, where subterranean chambers mirror surface layouts down to the placement of air shafts. Those aren't accidents of architecture, they're fingerprints of intent. Imitations muddy the waters further. When the Romans copied Greek temples or the Aztecs rebuilt Toltec sacred sites, they weren't preserving lost knowledge, they were claiming legitimacy. Power loves a pedigree, and nothing says, "I belong here," like building atop your predecessor's foundations. But true twin ruins go beyond political theater. They carry anomalies that defy practicality, hidden chambers with no clear purpose, alignments too precise for their era, or materials transported impossibly far. The Yonaguni Monument off Japan's coast, with its terraced formations resembling Okinawan castles, sparks debate: natural erosion or a drowned duplicate. The answer might lie in the subtle asymmetries, the way a forger's hand trembles when copying masterworks. Critical thinking is key. For every legitimately eerie parallel, there are 10 false twins born of pareidolia, our brain's knack for seeing patterns where none exist. The so-called Bosnian pyramids were debunked as natural hills, while Peru's Sacsayhuaman and Turkey's Göbekli Tepe share only superficial similarities when examined stone by stone. Yet dismissing every anomaly risks throwing out the extraordinary with the ordinary. The Great Pyramid's celestial alignments still outpace its contemporaries, and Puma Punku's precision-cut andesite blocks remain engineering enigmas. The challenge isn't just spotting twins, it's listening for the whispers between their walls. So where does that leave us? Somewhere between skepticism and wonder, where the mundane and miraculous share a foundation. Because if history teaches one thing, it's that the truth often lies not in the grand design, but in the cracks between the stones.